Well, hello, people. I'm happy you're here. This morning I read a couple of things, as I usually do. I also love this book, Against the Grain. It talks about how nation states came about and, agriculturalism and ancient kingdoms. It's kind of a bit of a heterodox view, not really, but it was controversial at the time of publication. But that book is interesting. I read a couple other things today, and it kind of reminded me of that book, Against the Grain. Anyway, everything's connected in one way or another. We think we understand the complex story of human life and culture, and then we learn that we are only seeing a fraction of what's going on. We only understand tidbits, a little here, a little there. And depending on how we focus our attention, we learn more about one thing than another. And so, if you live a long life and continue to learn things, study, read, your worldview will become broader, more interesting. You'll have a more detailed understanding of various things. And it's exciting. I think it is anyway. It's a lot of fun. And, you know, most of us who are curious about the world are like that. Anyway, the first article, I'm going to go into this Zionism thing afterwards, but it all connects. The idea that there's 50 million Christian Zionists in the States is a huge thing because their beliefs and their ideology and their theological beliefs and so on, informed by culture wars and other trends like the prosperity gospel, which I'll get into in the next video, inform everything they do. It's a big deal for them. They believe in what they believe in. And so it matters, to realize that there's this constituency out there. It's just like if you're going to study North Korea or Putin's Russia or whatever, the kind of capitalism with Chinese socialist characteristics in China or whatever, or energy from Vaclav Smil's perspective. All of this helps us to understand the world better, right? It may be uncomfortable to you because you've been taught that you shouldn't know about the other side because the other side's evil and it doesn't matter. Just focus on what we need to do, which is make our oligarchs, our leaders, our corporations wealthy and powerful and give them more control over everything. There's going to come a time, well, it's happening now, but very soon where the information we're allowed to look at is going to be official information. In other words, information coming from the players, which means the corporate leaders, the investment class, the people who are working to control energy, control resources, and control the narrative. So they're going to implant in you how you think. You won't notice it because just like fish don't notice they're in water, because it'll just permeate everything. And it'll be harder and harder to get information. People are burning books all over the place. IDF soldiers post Telegram videos of them burning books. All the cultural sites of Gaza have been destroyed. So, it's not that hard to destroy a culture. Anyway, it's happening now. And so it's going to get worse. And the tools that powerful constituents have to control us are incredible, and we hardly notice them and what they're doing. So yeah, much has been said over the last 10 years about social media and whatnot, and our data, our lives becoming a commodity. And the big customer of Google and Facebook and Amazon are, you know, the government in the form of the military industrial complex and the corporations that feed into that, whether they're big oil companies, energy companies, tech companies, companies that build arms, or companies that propagate ideas, communications, propaganda. There's a whole, I hate to use the word ecosystem, but there's this whole panoply of corporate interests and therefore shareholder interests. And you have to look at the big shareholders. Who controls the big block of shares? Who really owns them? Where do they really sit? You're probably not a benefactor of that. You may get a little piece, but the big players by far control most of the shares. And, people like Elon Musk say, I'm going to leave Tesla if I don't get $50 billion. And people argue that he should get it, even though his company is a mediocre company at best. And the competition is coming from around the world. And America won't have the power to be able to snuff out Chinese competition. It just won't. So whether it's, Volkswagen electrics or Ford electrics or electric cars from China, Tesla's doesn't have anything else to offer other than a subscription to its software package that you get to pay for. Anyway, enough of that. So I'm going to take you through this Sidecar article. So Sidecar is the New Left Review blog, and here's what they say about who they are. So Sidecar aims to provide a space on the left for international interventions and debate. A buzzing and richly populated left media landscape has emerged online in the past decade, but its main English-speaking forums have been largely monoglot in outlook and national in focus, treating culture as a subsidiary concern. By contrast, political writing on Sidecar will take the world rather than the Anglosphere as its primary frame. And I often mention the Anglosphere. I've done that for a long time. Culture is my claim to fame. Culture is the widest culture in the widest sense. Arts, ideas, mores will have full standing. So that's the thing. And the woman whose article I'm looking at today is Joanne Wypizewski. I don't know how to pronounce that, but it's spelled Wypijewski. Wypijewski. I don't know. Joanne. She's a big shot. She's a writer and editor based in New York, and she's written for The Nation and The Guardian and Harper's Magazine, Counterpunch, things like that, mostly left-leaning. But, she's written a few books. Zapatista Stories for Dreaming. She's talking about the rule of law, right? And with a question mark. Rule of law? So, the Trump thing is crazy. So how they twist everything around. All sides do it. I mean, the Democrats are notoriously great at their double standards as well. But on the financial front, his verdict, guilty verdict, has been a boon, raising $52.8 million for the candidate in a 24-hour period. So it's like Trumpists and MAGA people are saying, fuck you. I'm taking out my wallet right now and giving him some money. So it's called a grievance war across the country. And this grievance war has been being developed for a long time. So the grievance war has been ginning up for some time, every day, many times a day, for years. The Republican Party and its sound machine have been broadcasting a twin message of alarm. The law is against us. The law is us. So contradiction is the point. Fear is the operative instrument, while the very innocent man suffers. Crime stalks every citizen. So obviously, Trump is the victim. So immigrants and terrorists flood the country from foreign prisons and mental institutions, raping women, stealing jobs from citizens, driving down their wages, destroying their communities. The country is a mess. Government broken and venal, as if Trump and his supporters aren't venal. Law and order lie prostrate, police handcuffed by the woke mob. It's American carnage redux, as bloodletting around the world and Jihad Joe represent U.S. impotence or worse. And all of this while January 6 patriots languish in federal prison. Remember, it's not me they're after, Trump campaign messages wail. They're after you. I'm just standing in their way. So your hero and your instrument of God Almighty, Donald Trump, is here to save you and usher in the end times or whatever in his special kind of way. And the Democrats are going to do it by waging war on everybody who doesn't want to kick up profits to the man, to the mob boss, Uncle Sam. Hence, his mugshot is an election poster. His past, recent, and pending trials, both persecution and campaign platform. Hence, he promises a cleansing fire. Patriot, we win. We'll have the largest deportation operation in history. So that's a big bragging, right? So get ready for the exciting deporting, everybody, in the States. That's something to be proud of. And obviously, that'll solve all your problems, your debt problems, your expensive pharmaceuticals problems, your educational problems. It'll solve everything. Just deport a bunch of people. And hopefully, you'll have enough people after you've deported everybody to do some of the shit work. That's the only work you can do anymore for many people. So, and here's another quote. We will root out the communists, Marxists, fascists, and the radical left thugs that live like vermin within the confines of our culture. If that doesn't sound like, Nazi Germany speak, I don't know what does. All this vermin out there, And they were just born vermin, or they just magically turned vermin because Satan possessed them or something. So today's victim of a witch hunt is tomorrow's grand inquisitor, right? So Handmaid's Tale, he's going to come in and take care of everything. So the political strategy has been to inflame emotions, a most instrumental moral panic. The cultural strategy has been to make impunity accessible, worthy of but a shrug. And this is the thing. We exist to be agitated and emotionally picked, excited. And we want to pick a side. We want to be a part of a clique. And we want to know there's other people out there that are the cause of all our problems, and we want to destroy them. The barbarians. So Against the Grain talks about barbarians. What were barbarians in ancient times? They were just people that didn't live within the castle walls, within the empire, within the kingdom. They were people who weren't toiling away miserably, growing grain that was easily stored and transportable, that could be taxed by the elites, the bosses, the kings, the folks at the top. You need cannon fodder, you need soldiers, and you need something you can tax. And then you need to keep the people in that system so that you can, use their labor and energy for work, so that you can take the surplus of their work and turn it into castles and jewelry and feasts and courts full of really beautifully dressed people and so on and so forth. Eventually, right? So for a long time, it was the alluvium. It was like we lived near these floodplains and river systems and coastlines where we could hunt and gather and keep some animals and do a whole bunch of different things as needed over generations. And we were pretty healthy, according to many anthropologists and people who look into these things. There's also an epidemiology that goes with civilization, right? Because you know how the flu spread after World War I. Well, back in the day, you had these armies running around. You had people deciding to live in these tight quarters in these cities with animals and so on. And you have zoonotic spread of disease. You have all kinds of other things happening. Look at all the plagues throughout history. Arguably, at scale, these things happen in certain circumstances, but maybe way back when we were hunter-gatherers, we were less prone to those kinds of catastrophes. Of course, life was difficult. I'm not saying it's better to be a caveman, but it's interesting anyway. Against the Grain is a good book. And this other article made me think of that. So Trump as president had immunity and should not be tried for anything, ever. A claim the Supreme Court had to ponder and whose decision will come down this month. People who assaulted police and smashed the Capitol on January 6, 2021 are political prisoners. And that's something that Trump says. He's a political prisoner. Well, yeah, because you're in politics, dude. Anyway, so people who assaulted police and smashed the Capitol are political prisoners who should be pardoned. People who smashed storefronts in 2020 protesting police violence are thugs who should have been shot. That's the thing. Shoot those fuckers and pardon the other ones. Whatever side you're on, that's what it's going to be. BLM is just a joke and, kill them all. Whatever. It's always like that, right? Whatever side of the fence, whatever clique you're with, that's what you're going to see the world in those black and white terms. You're not going to understand the causes of any of it. The socioeconomic, cultural, ideological, structural, systemic causes. And of course, looking at things from deep time, like reading a book like Against the Grain, is stupid because what does it matter? We live here and now. I got to get mine. But it informs a lot, actually, when you think about it. And it's fun to read. So white nationalists who marched with tiki torches shouting, "The Jews will not replace us" in 2017. And by the way, these are the same people who support Israel no matter what. These are the Christian Zionists, okay? White nationalists who marched with tiki torches, "Jews will not replace us," were fine people. Jews are cool to the white empire, the global north, and its vassal states, as long as they stay in Israel, and as long as every Jew in the world moves there, and they can have a big, huge state, Greater Israel. Doesn't that sound kind of odd to you? Like, let's just get rid of them. The diaspora doesn't work anymore. We can't have them living in our midst. And I grew up. There were with Jewish communities that were just blending into the overall culture. There were all kinds of people living side by side, from different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different identities, different religions, and so on. But now you have, the nation state is a double-edged sword. It can be a real nightmare, this whole nation state thing. But of course, progress today is just making more shit. And like I said before, war is really good for GDP for some people. obviously extracting resources, turning them into bombs and planes and other weapons. You know, it's good for GDP. Might not be good for life on Earth, but who cares? We need 3% growth in Africa and India, all across the world, forever on a finite planet. It doesn't work, but that's, you know, that's the logic, the twisted logic of this system. So, yeah, we're very fine people, so Trump said, and some of them are very fine people. Students who protest against Israel's genocidal war on Gaza are anti-Semitic terrorists, so I would throw them out of the country. That's what Trump said. And it's true, Biden, Trump, they're no different. If I post something on Globe Hacker's Facebook page about Palestinians or anything like that, they often get censored and I have to go through a review and all that kind of stuff. You know, the AIs, the technology that Facebook is using is biased. It's working from a certain data set, and its algorithms are created by certain people who have an agenda, and they have a master to serve, and it's the government and it's the corporations that they work with, and the investor class and whatever. It's just the way it really is, folks. It's not a conspiracy. It's just the way this thing works. Our market, you know, our market works like that. So Biden is a tyrant who hates America. Trump, who will be a dictator, but only for one day, tells the faithful, I will be your retribution and make America. Your retribution. So that's what you want. You want to have a war with China. You want to have a war with Russia and Iran. You want to support Israel in ethnic cleansing and genocide. You want to control Africa because there's a lot of resources there. You want to keep Mexico and Central and South America in their place. You don't want them to get away from the neoliberal paradigm. And all of this stuff you want to do, and somehow you'll be able to do it. I just don't get it, you know? And at the same time, Trump is going to make America whatever. So maybe he does have a kind of vision which is like contract within the borders, America for Americans. But that's not going to work because Trump and his administration, even the lunatics in it like Miller, they still work for the same people the Biden administration works for. Those people call the shots in oblique ways. I posted something on Facebook about how much it costs to maintain the narrative, the socio-political, cultural narrative. And I was looking at the industry of marketing, public relations, influencer marketing, and lobbying, okay? So lobbying is interesting. Hundreds of millions of dollars focused on a very small number of people, Congress, right? And government officials across states. The advertising industry is huge. It's tens of billions of dollars, more than that, actually. And so is public relations, and so is influencer marketing and all that kind of stuff. So it's huge. It's like trillions of dollars are spent every year on this stuff. So maintaining the narrative. You can't maintain a road, but you can maintain a narrative. But the narrative you don't even notice. It's just permeant. It's white noise. It's just part and parcel of life. But yeah, they spend a lot of money. People spend a lot of money maintaining that story. And so it's difficult to look through, you know, to see through. You have to read a lot to kind of get a sense that there might be something off with the shit we believe. So we have grown accustomed to the carnival barker, the con man, which I always talk about. America loves con men. America loves gangsters. America loves war and violence. cowboys and Indians. It's all over our media, all over our TV shows, our movies, our poetry, our music. We just crazy about it in the weirdest, most exotic way. To take but one relevant indicator since the 1980s, the proportion of U.S. adults with a criminal record has swelled. If all arrested Americans were a nation, they would be the world's 18th largest. Holding hands, they could circle the earth 3 times. So I don't know if that's a good thing, just more and more prisoners. So where's the gulag? And you can go to sites on the internet that keep track of data and statistics and whatnot. And you think China's the big, gulag country, or Russia is. Not even close. I mean, even if you look for, make allowances statistically for population size and all that kind of stuff. 1.4 billion people in China and much fewer prisoners than in the United States. Now, you can tell me that it's a lie because I don't know what I'm talking about. In fact, all Chinese people are in prison, just like everybody's already dead of the vaccines. But the fact is that's not true. The vaccines didn't kill us, and all the people in China, there aren't that many prisoners in China. So, yeah, it's a different system, but, it's not any crazier than ours. It's the canon for those whose God promises vengeance. So that's the Jesus. My Jesus carries an AR-15 and has hand grenades. And he's going to kick ass, take out the bad guys. So the good versus evil heroic victim returns as a cartoon of suffering and a backslapping punisher. So we love these superheroes. We love supervillains. We hardly see any nuance in anything. We just get so excited that the good guy's gonna kill the bad guy as part of a narrative structure, a 3-act narrative structure that we're all very accustomed to. We just fall for it every time without thinking about it. The episodic drama of court appearances and appeals has given the lifelong grifter a priceless, if unconventional, stage to propound his version of reality and express contempt, sleeping at trial, insulting judge and the jury when anything interferes. So, he can say whatever he wants. He has to have a gag order. He falls asleep. It's a big fuck you, to the whole thing. And people love it. They're so bloody excited when Trump flips the middle finger at the world. A formidable liberal mythology has surrounded the idea that the courts will save us. The right, meanwhile, regards the law and the Constitution, the courts, the electoral process, every other institution as they are, areas of struggle where nothing is permanent and every loss is but a setback. So, Trump's always saying he's going to fight for the Constitution. I know he's never read it. He doesn't know what it is. He doesn't know how hard it was to get some of these amendments. And none of these amendments we can take for granted. They can be taken away at any time. And some of them, even though they were passed, they weren't realized for decades, This would be just another bit of flim-flam Americana. I love that, flim-flam Americana. Except that it has been cultivated far more methodically than the theatrics it suggests. Co-chairing the party is Trump's daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, a former Fox News pundit. Her husband, Eric, a dedicated if dim-witted liar, was fined $4 million for his part in the civil fraud. This is where they were using campaign money to pay off their own debts. Campaign financing, and you just appropriate it. His brother, Don Jr., received the same sentence. Their father, never as rich as he claimed, strapped to cover his $355 million fine plus interest, and, and given a break pending appeal, was cunning to have launched another family business. Daughter Ivanka's husband Jared Kushner got $2 billion from the Saudis shortly after leaving his White House job. Laura herself, upon assuming her new job, spoke of using RNC funds to relieve her father-in-law's legal costs. I think that it is a big interest to people. Absolutely. Donors feel like it's an attack, not just on Donald Trump, but on the country. So when you send in your campaign donations, it's going to go into their pocket. It's not for you, my friends. I'm always just amazed at how naive people are. They really think that he cares about you. He doesn't care. So as early as 2021, the RNC's election integrity director for Michigan said at a recorded training session for poll workers, we're going to have more lawyers than we've ever recruited. Because, let's be honest, that's where it's going to be fought, right? As reported by Politico, recruits are cautioned that it's illegal to try to disqualify every likely Democratic voter. But disqualification is the reason they are being trained. So the shenanigans, not just gerrymandering, but all the shenanigans are there just to make sure these people don't vote and these people do vote, and all kinds of black arts are being employed by both Democrats and Republicans. The RNC and the Democratic National DNC are equally corrupt. Law is more reliable. It's just that, which way do you want to go? Fascism in the kind of old school sense, where you have a white Christian ethno-state of Christian Zionists, or do you want to go for the world war, the nuclear war option? One's a quicker death, I guess. Law is more reliable, so GOP state legislators have been busily working to dilute black voting strength through redistricting, gerrymandering, right? The party's lawyers are also challenging various state rules that make voting easier. If history is a guide, Republican poll changers will not be massed in majority white districts. So they're going to go where they're needed to either curtail voters or to make sure their voters come out. The base is going to vote for Trump, period. So you don't even have to spend a dime on them. You have to spend money making sure that people who don't want to vote for Trump don't vote for Biden. I am a political prisoner, Trump now begins his pleas for love and money. It's time for me and you to shove it back in their corrupt faces. So he's not corrupt. I mean, yeah, they are corrupt, true, but he's just as corrupt. Oh my God. 2 years ago, my inbox rang with fears for the children. Tykes were being taught porno, forced into story time with drag queens, urged to turn trans, to hate themselves if white, and to rule the roost if black. And all of this stuff is exaggerated. The woke mob and the bathroom controversy and drag queens, it's just not a really big thing. Just like the whole, neo-Marxist thing and the postmodernism thing. The big thing is Christian Zionists. I mean, they're a big constituent, right? Teachers were struck off as mind-twisting perverts who brought litter boxes into the classroom for kids who identify as cats. How many kids do you know identify as a cat? Is it really a thing you should be worried about when we're trying as hard as we can to get into a really all-out kinetic war between NATO and Putin, which means between the United States and Russia? Well, let's go for it, see what happens. As with previous hysterias over the imperiled child, words didn't need to be true, only effective for energizing a political base. By late June, Republican-controlled state legislatures had introduced 549 anti-trans bills. Thank God the law's taking care of those trans people. By year's end, I'm sorry I'm laughing. If trans people scare you, okay, but I just think it's crazy. By year's end, 86 had passed. LGBTQ fight back has been formidable. Then, as if by magic, the children were saved. The culture war continues as a vehicle for GOP base building, lawmaking, and leadership training. And this is where the beautiful, evangelicals and all these religious fanatics and ideologues come into play, right? Because they have a direct line to the truth. It's a biblical truth, their interpretation of Scripture. And so they can't be wrong, right? They can always fall back on that. It's not scientific. It's not reasonable. It's full of logical fallacies, and it doesn't really matter. The point is, it's the absolute truth, and they know what that is, according to them. So they can fall back on that anytime they want. Enter January 6 hostages, a brotherhood of lambs for liberty being tortured by the legal system, like Trump, then on trial for fraud. A Supreme Court decision on a case challenging the federal obstruction statute used to prosecute hundreds, including Trump, for efforts to overturn the 2020 election will also come down this month. And no matter what happens, one side's going to accuse the other of cheating. It's just par for the course. Having reassured the most embarrassing elements of his coalition, religious fanatics, Proud Boy hoodlums, QAnon simps, Trump's messaging moved on to focus almost exclusively on one heroic victim and one scourge. Trump bellows, the U.S. is a fascist state, while his campaign simultaneously offers Americans the invigorating prospect of mass roundups, concentration camps, and revenge against those who are poisoning the blood of our country. And that's a quote, poisoning the blood of our country. It sounds so Hitler to me. But if you read right-wingers, they'll tell you that, oh, these stupid lefties are using fascist, everything's fascist, fascist bananas, fascist yogurt, fascist cereal, breakfast cereal, But the right uses it too against the left. And then you have fascists in Italy who are unashamed. They just love Mussolini and they want that brand of fascism to come back to Italy. And they're unashamed about it. They just come right out and say it. But we're all twisted. We don't even know what any of this means. What is fascism? Have no clue. So Trump's consigliere, Stephen Miller, a practiced peddler of fear and evangelist for violent white grievance against immigrants, pushed Trump to decree an end to the 14th Amendment guarantees of birth citizenship for children of undocumented immigrants while he was in the White House. Well, they're going to ramp all that up when he gets elected. They're going to push that. So, white boys, get ready to pick peaches and do whatever dirty job you don't like to do. And, all you other gig economy slaves and middle management folks who think you're better than everybody because you make less money than some skilled laborer who works on power lines. Get ready to be excited about your new situation in the United States. The grift, diverting election funds to Trump's legal defense, could result in a hollowing out of conventional ground game organizing, though the specter of Trump behind bars, avidly promoted by the man himself, has opened a spigot of cash so the party might recoup. So, the party's going to get a lot of money by being, selling Trump as a victim. college student may vote with only a matching signature in New York. But in 2012, I witnessed students frantically printing out utility bills in their name to be allowed to a ballot in Arizona. So they're going to make it hard for the young people to vote, because whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, because they don't like what's happening in Gaza. So we don't want those kids to vote. They're stupid, right? But, make it hard for people to vote. I think my definition or idea of democracy is where people are in power and people can actually organize and do things to get what they want or to achieve something in society. And we don't have that. We just have, it's a kind of a performance. It's a theater. It's a Simone Weil type thing. These people are just playing the game among themselves and using all of this narrative bludgeon us into pretending that we're participating in something when we really never get what we want or what we vote for, ever. They're never going to deliver on that. The other landmark Reconstruction era amendments, the 13th, 1865, which abolished slavery, the 14th, 1868, which guaranteed birthright citizenship, negating Dred Scott. You have to look that up if you didn't get that in your high school history class. And equal protection under the law extended due process rights, limited states' power over individual liberties, and placed restrictions on insurrectionists, addressed conditions particular to the time, principally for the freedmen in the South, but also asserted broad civil freedoms that people have fought over ever since. So even though it was targeting, rights for freedmen, for slaves, freed slaves, we all benefited, people, and we have to keep fighting for it. Otherwise, we're going to lose it. Their drafting, passage, ratification, and enforcement were anything but orderly, just as the rights they established were anything but certain or sweeping. For a century after, Black people primarily labored to realize their promise, an unfinished battle, like the unending class struggle to secure a piece of the unalienable rights in the Declaration of Independence. They'll take it all away if they can. They, the people who don't want people to have those rights for whatever reason. And you won't even notice they're gone until they're gone. It's like you're afraid they're going to take away your guns. They're going to take away your guns. Somebody's going to decide that, you shouldn't have all those guns. And if you love guns, you want to keep your guns. But if you think guns are dangerous, we don't have a lot of guns running around in Portugal. Guns aren't illegal, but it's hard to keep them. You need licenses, and you have to maintain those licenses. But we don't have gun crime either. We can still go hunting. I can have a handgun here if I wanted one, but I love living in a country where I think I don't need a handgun. So women are dying or threatened and resisting today because the same court that said states cannot disqualify an oath-breaking insurrectionist from the ballot has held that states has held that states can control a woman's body. Each case in opposite ways, saying, history be damned. So it's just our sidism, and that's that. So again, it's, if I can read you right-wing articles from right-wing publications as well. I post those. But anyway, I thought that was fairly interesting. Another one I won't go through, but this one's called Narcissistic Personality Disorder in the USA, in Counterpunch by Kathleen Wallace. This one just talks about how you diagnose narcissistic personality disorder, and she's arguing that America fits the bill for such a diagnosis as a culture, you know. So one, a grandiose sense of importance, American exceptionalism. Two, a preoccupation with fantasies of unlimited success and power. Again, I talk about the Zionism thing, prosperity gospel, city on a hill. Three, a belief that they are special in such a way that only their high status peoples or institutions can understand them. There's, yeah, in spades. Oh my God. A need for excessive admiration. That's true. A sense of entitlement. Yep. Check. Interpersonally exploitative behavior. Check. Pay your taxes. We in the government will decide that we would like to use it for global nonstop wars and genocides. But you, no healthcare, no college, without debt trapping, just vote. And when you vote, we won't give you what you want anyway. So, exploitative behavior, check. A lack of empathy, check. The Atlantic running articles giving ways it is legal to murder children in war. Lack of empathy. An envy of others or a belief that others are envious of him or her. They hate us for our freedoms, enough said. Arrogance and haughty behaviors or attitudes. People have characterized Americans as haughty and arrogant as long as I can remember from my days in Ireland and traveling around from childhood all over the world. People will just assume you're an arrogant, haughty asshole. Of course, people still like Americans because they like the American dream. They like that idea. And also, Americans are nice. I'm an American. Many of us are nice. But anyway, they still think we're really arrogant, haughty, blusterous, overconfident people. So that was interesting. That's on Counterpunch. And then another one, but I'm not going to go through that right now. So I'll stop that here, and I'll go into the prosperity gospel and Christian Zionism around the world. It's a global thing. So thanks for bearing with me on that article. I'll put the link in the description, and you can read it if you want to. Take good care. William T. out.